Want a huge deal on a large pizza? For a very limited time at Donato's, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for 50% off. Yes, half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's. Gotta love more.
The Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brandon Matisse says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Monday, June 8th, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 559 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to the start of summer. As I recorded last week, Ohio State's players were making their way to campus and guys were getting settled. And last week was really kind of a settle in, get your medical testing done, get situated, get evaluated, all that kind of stuff type of week. And now this week, the work really kind of gets underway. They'll start with workouts and doing the things that they're able to do during the summer as a team. That all gets underway here. And as I record this podcast here on a Monday morning, the official roster has been updated over at OhioStateBuckeyes.com. So we're going to run down real quickly here heights and weights for everybody. So, and jersey numbers for the new guys as well. John Mobley, 6'2", 185. Amari Bynum, 6'8", 240. Curtis Givens III will wear number 2. He's measured in at 6'3", 190. Jimmy Williams will wear number 3, measured in at 6'5", 200. Andrea Jelovich will wear number 4, measured in at 6'11", 225. I've heard he's a little higher than that. Anthony Thompson will wear number 6, measured in at 6'8", 210. Although I actually had somebody, I was at Ohio State's team camp Thursday, Friday, and I think he's closer to 6'9", but he's listed here at 6'8", 210. Ivan Yagovin, 7'2", 260. Miles Hero, 6'3", 165. Alex Smith will wear number 9. He measured in at 6'9", 200. Justin Pippen will wear number 10, 6'3", 190. Josh Ojanwuna, 6'10", 270. Braylon Nash, 6'4", 190. Braylon Nash looks like he's in great shape, by the way. And Vuk Lazarevich wearing number 88, measured in at 7'1", 200. So we have roster numbers, we have heights, we have weights. It sounds like summer. So I've got a couple of things here just that I'm just going to kind of run down, and this isn't going to be the lengthiest podcast of the summer, but like I said, I was at Ohio State's team camp on Thursday and Friday, where a whole bunch of predominantly Ohio and Central Ohio teams played on the main court and then in both of the practice gyms for most of the day, Thursday and Friday. I was only there for sort of a brief period because these camp things have changed significantly here as the transfer portal and NIL era has taken hold on the sport, because, there were times where these camps would have multiple 5-star kids. I always flash back to the time that both Xavier Booker and Devin Royal were 2 uncommitted 4/5-star prospects playing against each other on the main floor at at the Schottenstein Center as part of Ohio State's team camp. That's really not the case anymore. The only player who participated, or whose team rather, was at team camp for Ohio State was Dylan Ziegler from Lutheran East. He was the only guy that was in that gym in those 2 days who was a high school player who had an offer from Ohio State. And I think that is a reflection of the current ecosystem that is men's Division I high major college basketball. And it's just, it's a change. Like, you notice that when you get there and you kind of look at the teams that are participating and you start saying, okay, well, there's a couple of kids maybe in the 2028 or 2029 class who down the road, maybe they play themselves into a scholarship offer, or maybe in 4 years, after a year at a MAC school, they end up transferring in or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that these camps are very different than they used to be, because there's just not the level of high school, or not just the importance on high school talent than that we used to see just a couple of years ago. So Don't have a ton in the way of like, oh, this guy looked great and this guy played his way into a potential offer, but like it's just not what these camps are so much anymore. But did get to watch before camp starts. There are Ohio State players that will go out there and put some work in on the main floor as the campers are kind of filtering in and teams are starting to, get things situated. So have a few thoughts on a couple of guys that I got to see. I did post some videos to my Instagram page, which did undergo a name change. I got tired of saying hoops _ scoops. So my official work Instagram page is CD Adam Jardy. CD stands for Columbus Dispatch. It also is a little nod to my beloved CD 101, the radio station that used to exist in Columbus and was the best thing on the radio, and I miss it terribly. It is for Columbus Dispatch, but the CD was I thought it was a nice little extra meaning behind it. So I did post some videos there. You can go see some of the stuff I'm about to talk about, and I'll have some more stuff I'm going to post on there here soon. But first chance to see some guys in a little while. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you do subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review, please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks to everyone who's taking the time to do all those things. Donato's is legendary for putting so many toppings on their pizzas, but just wait till you hear what they're taking off. For a very limited time, when you buy any large Donato's pizza, you can add a large one-topping pizza for 50% off. That's right, half off. You order using promo code HALF. Order your favorite large Donato's pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for half off today. Donato's, gotta love more. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is what I saw from Josh Ojonwuna. Big dude, and I was flashing back to early summer last year when he was 3 months or so removed from his knee injury that ended his season at Baylor. And I just remember seeing him sitting in the gym when the team was going through like summer workouts and things, and just thinking that's like one of the largest basketball players I've ever seen. Just this hulking mass of a human being. And thinking to myself, it's hard to imagine like what that looks like moving on the floor and getting up and down and how that fits into playing at any sort of tempo in the Big Ten. And then we all kind of wondered like what his progression was looking like and like what the summer or what the fall was looking like. Was he going to play for Ohio State next year? And then as we've discussed and as I've written about, once it became clear that everybody wasn't going to get that 5th year of eligibility last year, there was no point in him going through the whole process, getting in and playing, 10 games for Ohio State and then the season being over and his college career being over. Like that was the longer in the season we went, the more likely it was he wasn't going to play unless there was a waiver that their situation had changed. So that didn't happen. We've talked about it. I've written about it. So now it's pretty clear, like he comes into the summer, he's battling to be the opening day starter. There's a lot at stake or, in play here for him. And we don't really have a great feel for like what he can do. Like those of us on the outside here, because we haven't really seen a whole lot. We've heard, little bits here and there. And, Jake Diebler said at his media availability last Monday how Josh was doing some things like he, one-on-one and things like that. And that, there weren't really limitations going forward. So we got to see him on Friday morning, put in a good 20 minutes or so on the main floor. And I can tell you, first of all, I was struck by how different he looked physically. I would almost use the word ballooned last year. Like he looked like he could rip my arms off if he wanted to, but he looked a little puffy, like a guy who was coming off an injury and, needed to trim down a bit whenever it was that he would start to get playing again. And that's still a work in progress to an extent, but he did not look puffy. And I apologize. I can't think of a better word than that, but he looked like a guy who has trimmed down, bulked up, and looks really good. Like looks like he is in really good shape. Now, conditioning and things like that, there's a long way to go, and it's June. So I don't think there's a whole lot to say on in that aspect, but a couple of things. First of all, he looked every bit the physical, like explosive around the rim type of player. I mean, I watched him doing a drill where he was working with Jamal Walker, and then William Buford and Nick Kellogg were helping him on the court. So he was guarding those guys. He was working against those guys. They were using like the big pads to try to like defend and block him and things like that. So he would start a drill where he'd have the ball. He'd be on the block. He'd jump up and he'd smash the ball against the backboard. He'd come back down. He'd put it up, and then he'd run out to like the 3-point line. Would have to do some defense. Was working on some shooting. Joshua Njonwuna can shoot. I don't know that we knew this. He was working on 3-pointers, and they weren't all 100% looking great, but he shot some threes and looked better at that than I thought he would. Not a guy that I really thought that was part of his bag. And he's an interesting case because certainly, he's obviously didn't play last year, injured the year before, but it like sort of steadily played his way up through his career where his minutes went up. I pulled up his page here at KenPom, like as a freshman at Baylor, 28% of the minutes, sophomore 38.1, junior 39.4, and then obviously the injury. He shot 2 3-pointers in his collegiate career. And I don't expect this to be a case where he's going to come out and start firing up 4 a game, but they clearly want him to be able to shoot. And based on what I saw, that looks like it's in the realm of possibilities. If Joshua Njonwuna is able to be, 6'11", 260, 270, whatever it ends up being, and is this physical guy down low and also can shoot a little bit? I mean, I think the shooting would be a bonus. He looks like the most physically intimidating post presence that Ohio State has had in years. I'd have to really like sit down and think about that. He just looks like he looks like the type of big that has terrorized Ohio State for years. And it's June. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis here or anything like that, but I was very impressed. That was like my number one thing that I took away from watching him is that he's clearly making progress. He looks super tough and strong, but also a little bit slimmed down, and it looks like he might be able to shoot a little bit. So still a long way to go for him to get where they need him to be. He's got still a lot of time, but I do think it also helps that he has like a clock to work against. He really didn't for most of last year. It was very much like, well, if this rule changes, then we'll see where we are. But if it doesn't, then you're not going to play. So like, hey, it's great if you're in full game shape in early February, but you're still probably not playing until November. Like that's going to impact anybody's development and recovery, I think. But it's clear that I do think it will help him going forward, that he has a clear line of sight now to, okay, here's when I can play. Here's when the next game is. Here's what I should be able to, like, there's not any thought of like, oh, you're not going to play, or we don't know if you're going to play. It's like, no, you're going to play. And as soon as we start playing games, you're going to be a part of it. I think that sort of stuff will help him as he continues to move forward here through the summer. Now, 2 other guys that we haven't really seen a whole lot of in person. I did go see Anthony Thompson during his senior season, but I got to see both him and Alex Smith on the floor. Both of them just chucking threes and hitting a lot. I was very impressed with Alex Smith's shooting. And I keep saying it. It's June. This was on Friday morning. This is after a morning lifting session. So there is that. They're not being guarded. Like, this is just like catch and shoot, open threes and things like that. But Alex Smith looked good. His shot looked good. He looked confident. It looked effortless. And the same went for Anthony Thompson. And man, is he tall. I mean, like I said, I know he's listed, I think, at 6'8". I've heard he's more like 6'9", maybe even 6'9.5" with shoes. He looks tall, and he does look like that shot's going to be hard to guard. He was going through shooting drills, kind of going around the world with Alex. He was working with Amari Bynum a little bit. There was a point where Anthony and Alex were kind of going one-on-one almost with shots from just inside half court. And they had the script Buckeyes court down. And I mean, they were hitting shots from the U, from the C. And this wasn't like a, hey, we're leaning or we're really lunging or chucking. Like, it was like stop and pull up like you were shooting from 10 feet away. And I think Alex hit 5 in a row at one point. This is impressive stuff. I watched Alex and Amari Bynum shooting together. Amari's shot looks more consistent than it was last year, especially in the early going. I was impressed with what I saw from him. And Alex looked the same. Or I should say, like, he was the way that I was impressed with Joshua John where it's like, well, I haven't seen this guy in a long time. What does it look like when he's on the floor? I came away impressed with Josh. Same with Alex. And I heard from multiple people around the program while I was there that, like, yo, he can shoot. I don't know where he fits into the lineup this year. I think there's certainly like some strength stuff that needs to happen there. And there's going to be, I think, a development acclimation process for him like there is for all freshmen. But I'm more convinced than I was when I walked into the gym Thursday morning that his shooting might be able to impact this year's Ohio State team. And his size certainly plays a role in that too. Anthony Thompson, same deal. I mean, I'm convinced that guy is going to be, a significant contributor. He's going to start from day one. Like, there's going to be a lot of things that they're going to ask him to do. He looked tall. With both of those guys, it was interesting because I was talking to a former player who was there, and just the observation that, like, Anthony looks really good. He's got to get thicker. He's got to get stronger. And the response that I got was that Coach Rich will take care of that. So there's a lot of guys in that building that are really excited about Dave Richardson being back at Ohio State. That was certainly a continual talking point. Everyone that I would cross paths with, of just like, these guys are about to be woken up a little bit, or not. That's not the right word. They're going to be challenged in a different way with Dave Richardson in there. So we'll see how that goes going forward. Saw John Mobley Jr. on Thursday getting shots up. He looked like John Mobley Jr. It was funny sitting there on Friday watching. Mobley wasn't shooting on Friday, but I'm sitting there, and there's like a high school team behind me, and they're watching these guys. And one of them just kept saying, like, yo, where's John Mobley? Like, where's John Mobley? Like, they wanted to see John Mobley. And I thought that was interesting. Just trying to get a feel for, like, who do the kids like, and who do the kids want to see on this team? Well, certainly there was recognition of, like, guys wanted to see John Mobley on the floor in that game, in those that shoot around in those workouts. Also had a player I heard behind me point out. So I watched Westerville North play against Maslin Jackson and Kyle Young on staff at his alma mater. So he was in the shot for the last 2 days, and talked to him very briefly. But it was interesting too. I heard one of the kids sitting behind me noticed that Kyle Young was sitting on the bench there, and someone was like, yo, that's Kyle Young. And someone else was like, well, who's that? And somebody said, that was my dad. That's my dad's favorite player. And I thought, like, that's the Kyle Young legacy right there. I think we can all see that. And I thought that was interesting. I didn't get a chance to. I talked to Kyle the one day. I didn't get a chance to tell him that, but I figured he would have probably appreciated that. So I did have a sit down with new assistant coach Mike Wells, and you can read that story on Wednesday. I'm going to write that here in the next 24 hours because there's kind of a lot of ground to cover, and I think that it's a really interesting outside the box type of hire. Certainly someone who hasn't been in the collegiate game in a long time, but someone who has an extensive career in the NBA. And I was struck in talking to him with just like how personable he was. I mean, we had traded messages, but this was our first like actual like conversation. And he was very, sort of straightforward and, really easy to talk to. Spent a lot of time meeting people. And, talk to me about like getting his feet underneath him and how there's just like a million things all kind of happening at the same time. And that's what happens anytime you take a new job, but certainly when you move halfway around the world and also jump into the collegiate level. He did talk to me about how like he thought that this is like one part of his career. He always wanted to coach in college, and just kind of the way things unfolded, it was never really like the thing for him. But he's very excited about the opportunity and about the chance to to coach at a place that matters to him and his family at a high level as a Mount Vernon Nazarene grad and someone who's from Central Ohio. It means a lot to him to be at Ohio State. I thought that was a genuine takeaway that I took from our conversation. And I was able to fill in the gap because at his press conference last week, Jake Diebler said that there was a mutual connection that had sort of helped the conversations between the two of them get going. And turns out there's a tie to the Drew family. So stay tuned. I'm going to have that story for you here on Wednesday. But I thought that was interesting as well. It was a good conversation with him. I did also talk with Westerville North's Tony Cornett, who is a player that the coaching staff was clearly watching. North was there both days of the camp. I watched North play against Jackson, and North won pretty handily. There was a play where Tony blocked a shot and then was able to corral the ball, push it up floor for a run out potential. I think it was more 2-on-1 actually, as I remember it now. And he got it up to, it was his brother, and his brother had the ball, and he might have had the layup, but instead he threw it up to Tony and he dunked it. So Tony had the block, the pass, the sprint, and then finished the lob for a dunk. Now, he does not have an offer from Ohio State, but they are clearly interested. There were multiple coaches watching him everywhere that he played. The game that I was there watching him, so let me think. There was Dave Dickerson, Mike Wells, Brian Walsh, Terrence Dials, and Jamal Walker were all there watching him on that Friday. So there's certainly an interest level there. He has been offered by every Ohio MAC school, and he did tell me that he's planning on visiting Toledo, Akron, and Ohio State this month. So a name to keep an eye on. He's a senior. He's a 3-star in the 24/7 Sports rankings for the 2027 class, but definitely someone that they're keeping tabs on as they try to put this together. Don't know what that 2027 recruiting class is going to look like. To be determined, I think, on that. And it's getting harder and harder to figure out what future recruiting class sizes are going to look like, how this is going to fit together. Along those lines, I heard this summer there will be multiple instances where Ohio State will have assistant coaches recruiting internationally. They will be in other countries recruiting guys, looking at guys. That does look to be a more important aspect of recruiting going forward. So something to keep an eye on. And then I did run into Bruce Thornton's mom was there on Friday and just talked to her very briefly, said hello. She said Bruce was in New Orleans as she was there. She was helping with some apartment stuff. Mike Wells did say that he's gotten a ton of calls about Bruce, and he's had to say look, I just got here. I don't know the guy. But he said that's a good sign as this NBA draft approaches. There was a new NBA mock draft this morning over at The Athletic where Sam Vecini lists Bruce Thornton, projects him going to the LA Clippers at number 36 in the draft. So that was certainly of note. I did see that Bruce at the combine measured in at 6 foot barefoot, and he was 223, which were the 7th and 98th percentiles among point guards. I'm guessing there's not too many guys with his body type that are as short and as heavy and physical as Bruce Thornton at that point guard spot. So I thought that was interesting. And then the last two things here, it's just a random observation, but I did have one person on the coaching staff tell me that, everyone this time of year talks about how much they love their team and how much they're looking forward to coaching this team. But I had one coach tell me, everyone says that, but I really feel it with this team. They said that they're really excited to see how this comes together, but they really believe in the people that they brought in and the talent that they brought in. Certainly the size, something we're going to keep harping on, but they believe that this team has more competitive size. And at the same time, this team also seems to fit that, however you want to describe that mold of the Ohio State basketball player. This seems to check a lot of the boxes that the coaches look for. And there is a genuine excitement level of getting these guys in the gym and starting to get to work with them and to get to know them even better than they've been able to figure out here in these couple of months of putting the roster together, or maybe a couple of weeks, probably a better way to put it. And the last thing I want to leave you with is that there will be a story online Tuesday morning. I caught up with two pivotal members of Jimmy Williams' backstory. So you go back through and you look, and it's like Jimmy Williams played a year, Wallace State, JUCO, played at South Florida, played at Duquesne. Now he's at Ohio State. But he wasn't all Ohio coming out of high school. And there's like sort of some gap years there where I was like, well, where? So I made some phone calls, and turns out he played a year at Covenant College Prep in New Jersey. And it was thanks to a connection that he had with a member of the coaching staff there who had ties to Solon High School where he played. And I was really fascinated talking to these people and then writing the story, because if you put them in the 2020, 2021 like mindset, and they said, and the common theme everyone that I talked to was like Jimmy Williams was incredibly confident, and yeah, he was a good player, but like he was barely all conference and he was not all state, and he was just like a 6'1" guard. And fast forward like 2 years later, and he's like a 6'5" JUCO star who's getting D1 calls from across the country. I think there's gonna be a lot of stories to write about Jimmy Williams as we get closer to the season, and then obviously as they start playing games. But I was really fascinated with this look into where he comes from and how he got that first opportunity, because if not for Covenant College Prep, I don't know where Jimmy Williams would have played as a freshman. And I don't know that he would still be playing basketball, much less going from that situation to now playing at a place like Ohio State. I think it's a fascinating story. This is just like a chapter in it, but that'll be up Tuesday morning. I'd really encourage you to read it and get to know a little bit more about kind of what this guy has gone through and how he got that first opportunity outside of high school. All right, now I'm going to wrap this one up. I got some stuff to go write. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty for putting this out. This will probably be the only podcast of the week. I actually have jury duty next week, so I'm going to try to get something in the can that we'll publish next week for you. So be on the lookout. There will be more stuff coming here soon, but this is going to wrap this one up now. So until we speak again, be kind, take care, and we'll talk soon. Donato's is legendary for putting so much on their pizzas, but just listen to what they're taking off. Right now, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's, gotta love more.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.